What was the first time you remember hearing about the conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States?
That was in first grade when I was a little girl. I lived in El Paso, Texas, and we had to learn to get under our desk every time there was any hint that there might be a attack. We had these drills once a month where you'd get under your desk, kind of duck and cover, but I remember being worried and thinking that my legs and my feet weren't under the desk. So, how would they be protected if the building fell down on top of us?
What does the term Cold War mean to you?
Well, just that there was no warm and fuzzy feelings, that the communication was cold. Letters, and there was this wall in Germany. It wasn't like World War II where there was constant fighting, but it was kind of a standoff and nobody wanted anyone else to come closer. There was a constant threat and worry of bombs from Russia.
What do you remember seeing or reading about during the Cold War?
Well, the newspapers had pictures of missiles and satellite pictures and bombs in Russia and things that were a threat to the United States. So we all knew that they were the bad guys.
Where did you live between 1945 to 1980?
Well, I was born in 1953 in Colorado, but I was too little to remember that. My parents moved often because my dad worked for the military. And so we lived in El Paso, Texas, and my dad worked overnight at the White Sands Missile Air Force Base. And then when I was about second grade, they moved to Lompoc, California, and my dad worked at Vandenberg Air Force Base on the missiles there.
What books, movies, or cartoons do you remember seeing or reading that dealt with the communism or the Cold War, and what was the main idea at the media at the time?
Well, there were comedy shows like MASH and Beetle Bailey in the cartoons, and there were other movies like The Red Nightmare and The Hunt for Red October and like Fail Safe and The Blockhouse. Some of those are not when I was real little, but there were also a lot of movies like Father Knows Best, where everything was soft and warm, and we just kind of put our heads in the sand, and your kids were sent to school. You don't have to worry, everything's fine.
What were you taught in school during the Cold War?
Mostly just to get under my desk that they were the bad guys and we were the good guys, and we had to watch and be careful, be vigilant.
What did your school and family teach you about nuclear threats and nuclear war at the time?
Well, my parents told us to listen to what our teachers in school said and that they would keep us safe. And if the teacher said to get under the desk, we were supposed to do it immediately. We didn't have a bomb shelter, and neither did the school or anywhere in the towns that we lived in that I know of. There were kind of central locations like the library or a church maybe where the building was supposed to be stronger and maybe resistant to a heavy impact of a bomb. And we didn't have any gas masks, and we were not instructed to get a gas mask. Once in a while you would meet somebody who said they had a gas mask, but you sure didn't see it.
Says it paused. Okay. All right, go ahead.
We didn't see any gas masks, but it surely wasn't common.
Were you ever worried that there would be a hot war between Russia and the United States?
Well, a hot war, I'm not sure. Right at first, when I first heard about it, I was a little concerned and worried. Yeah. And then maybe the teachers thought they had to impress us that things were serious. But by the time I was 11 or 12, we didn't worry about that anymore. My dad had been training for the military in other cities, and he had gone to some kind of a top secret mission on an island called Johnson Island in the middle of the Pacific, and it was just a big military base, or a small military base. The island wasn't real wide, but I never did find out what he did there. I suppose I should have asked him before he died, but I didn't think about it.
What do you remember about the competition to explore space at the time?
Well, I remember that all the countries, everybody wanted to have a space program, but not everybody could afford it because it was very pricey to build those space rockets and then send people up. But everybody had a push to get a man into outer space, and then we had another race to get a man on the moon, and then a lot of Americans felt like that the government was being unsafe with the astronauts, and there was some controversy about NASA pushing to get ahead, and the landings were always rough for those spaceships. They always had to land in the ocean because they were on fire to make them go forward, but they couldn't use that fire to come down, otherwise they would have crashed. It would have been their death. So they always landed in the ocean, and they'd have to go out and fish those people out of the ocean, otherwise they would end up on the bottom of the ocean. You couldn't get to the people, so they had to build the spaceship so that they could float while they looked for them. So there was a big thing about going outside of the rocket while they were in space, and everybody wanted to do that, even if it was just for minor repairs and to wave at the outside at the camera that was being sent down to the Earth from the outside of the spaceship. And maybe a lot of people thought that was probably taking unnecessary risks with the astronauts' lives, because there was a couple of crashes where people lost their lives.
Can you think of other examples of competitions between the United States and Russia?
Well, there was academic competition and medical and science research, medical advancements, and that's it.
Do you remember the Berlin Wall coming down? How did that make you feel, and what was the feeling like during the country at the time?
Well, I remember it really well. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought it had been a long time, and maybe it was just a news story and wasn't really, the wall wasn't down. Maybe there was just a little opening where they were letting people through easier or something. I just wasn't totally believing it. There had been a lot of emotions and injuries at that spot for years. And so I thought of all the energy that had been built to build the wall, and having it there created a lot of conflict, and it hurt so many people. And I remember when my dad was there, and he talked about people's freedom being taken away. So in 2017, I visited Berlin and I saw Checkpoint Charlie, and I was surprised at how big things were there. And some small portions were still standing, and of the wall itself was still a little bit standing, and you could tell where the wall had been. You could buy a piece of the wall in stores around there, and I bought a piece and brought it home.
What lessons should students today take away from the Cold War?
Well, I suppose that would be to appreciate our freedom. We shouldn't ever impinge on somebody else's freedom, and it's one of the greatest gifts that we've ever been given. It's a gift from God to be a free person. A lot of people, young people especially, it seems like, take it for granted because they don't remember the Cold War. But people don't realize how basic that freedom is and how it should be free. It's one of the most important things we have. We should appreciate it and take care of it.
Do you worry we could be moving into another Cold War because of the conflict with Russia and Ukraine?
Well, I worry a little bit, yeah. I worry about that conflict, that they're ruling over us and making us feel that they're right. I worry about our people. There's not enough people that are convicted to keep our guard up, and maybe we should be fighting for some of those things, that it's insidious and we're not noticing that these little things that we give up so easily are important. We should keep our guard up. And there's a lot of things that we give up. It allows people to move in on the backside because we have our guard down, like allowing other people with other beliefs to govern our beliefs. And we call it religious freedom when we allow teaching of all other religions in school, but we restrict the religion that our country was founded upon. Like prayer in school. There's no prayer in school. I mean, what's that about?
Okay, thank you.